Today's video is sponsored by the Deck of Many and their Black Friday deals. So, around a year ago, some small brain YouTuber named Blaine Simple made a tier list video on one of the most highly debated subjects in D&D. His goal? To rank every class in the game against each other in a battle royale to the death. Now obviously, some people disagreed with the facts he was laying, and to this day, it's one of the least liked videos on his channel. Well, aside from this clickbaited mess, but nobody talks about that. So today, the most knowledgeable D&D YouTuber on the platform has returned to create an undisputed, factually correct tier list. I know it sounds impossible, but I'm also the same person who tried to wrap my head around time travel in D&D, so take that. Every D&D class will be ranked from brokenly strong to cripplingly weak. There's a ton of different ways you could look at a tier list, so for this video we're ranking them based on how fun the class is to play, how many team roles it can fulfill on its own, and how much value it brings to a team. Also, since tier lists have a tendency to be a bit biased from the person who's making them, the placements for every class on this list were chosen by you guys during one of our streams. I gave my own brief opinions on where I felt they all belonged, but otherwise you all had the final say in every class's fate, so if your favorite ends up getting bullied, then you only have yourself to blame.
Call an ambulance! Call an ambulance!
Now, we gotta give some respect to the cripple tier by starting with it first. F's in the chat, boys, because we all know what's coming. Rangers had a lot of hate thrown its way for no reason whatsoever, and anyone who thinks this class is bad needs to be thrown in a pit filled with ravenous bears, because no other class can top this one. I'm obviously joking. Ranger's terrible, and whoever the heck greenlit this class to get into the player's handbook needs to be fired. If you want to be able to use almost any skill from this class, the planets need to align. Everything begs on you being in the right terrain, fighting the right enemy of the correct size, shape, and quantity. If even just one of these factors are off, then you've just lost a large portion of your relevancy. Just saying Ranger's bad is still giving it too much credit. It makes you feel bad when you play the class. It's weak, and the kit rarely ever synergizes with the DM's campaign. Now, every other class is immediately 2 tiers higher than Ranger, just for being more relevant in literally every conceivable way. First up in the useful tier, we have Fighter. It's by far the easiest class to learn, play, and master. Fighter's also one of the best classes to dip into if you're thinking of multi-classing, rivaled only by the Rogue. Because of that, you can start to see why so many people go a mix of both Fighter and Rogue for their characters. These are some huge pros and cons, because Fighter feels more like a class you'd branch into, rather than a class you'd want to max out. Aside from Action Surge, Fighter feels a bit generic and simple, often lacking features to impact the game during later stages of play. A lot of the martial classes have this issue, which, once again, is a big reason why people tend to multi-class with them. If anything, Fighter just lacks flavor. It's like a bowl of salad, and everyone knows you need dressing to make that palatable. Warlock is another one of those classes that lack a bit of flavor, which is concerning because it has one of the most customizable kits out of the whole game. Electric Blast is a staple name for Warlocks, and with tons of different ways to customize your attacks, spells, and even Patron, this class offers ways to change your character's abilities even midway through the campaign. So what's holding Warlock from being so strong? Well, as a spellcasting class, Warlock has an abysmal amount of spell slots. Picture it like any FPS game. You have your super cool grenade launcher as your main weapon, and a pistol as your sidearm. The issue here is your launcher only has 1 grenade in it, and afterwards you're gonna be reduced to blasting your infinite ammo pistol for the rest of the game. Is it gonna help a lot if you modified the pistol with a scope or maybe some stronger bullets? Well, sorta, but you're sort of forgetting here that we had a grenade launcher, and the only thing that's holding us back now is our lack of ammo. So yeah, Warlock's a bit, a little iffy there. The Patron feature is really cool, and I think it adds a lot of unique flavor, but otherwise, the power of the kit is much to be desired. Now, a Monk is one of those classes that I'm not all too familiar with. Reading up on the skills that something has is one thing, but actually playing the class and feeling it for myself is another, so I won't be throwing out too many uneducated opinions on this one. Generally, I think Monk has more fun and unique features than Fighter for sure. The class is awesome, and punching things is cool. For a martial class though, there's so much to be desired in terms of damage output. Monk might be one of the harder classes to score big damage numbers with, and that's as a result of many of the situational, but quite powerful, features taking up its class abilities. You guys wanted it in this tier though, so I'm just gonna agree with you, and hopefully the rest of you guys agree. Sorcerer is the final class in this tier. Being this low on the tier list concerns me a bit because I think the kit is pretty strong, and even broken in some regards. It makes sense because during the stream everyone was pretty split on where it belonged, so take this placement with a few more grains of salt than the rest. Metamagic is fine, the subclasses are alright, and calling it a clone of the wizard is insulting. Maybe people don't like Sorcerer because it's a pretty difficult class to learn and play, but who knows. Off to the pretty lit fam tier, we'll start with Paladin. What more do you want from a class? Paladins have everything. All weapon skills, all armor skills, healing, damage, and spellcasting powers. If anything, all of these talents might actually weigh down on the class because it means you need to stretch yourself pretty thin to fit all those roles. It's still a great class though, and one of my new favorites. On a side note, Divine Smite is a powerful skill that gets even stronger when used on the right enemy. That is how you do special abilities, Ranger. Take notes. Up next is the Barbarian. Basically, take every passive skill from the Monk and replace it with a combat ability. Barbarians exist to fight, and the insanity that is their damage output, evasion, and pure inability to die is a force to be reckoned with. The only flaw Barbarians might have is that because they're so good when it comes to strength-based stuff, building them any other way just seems less effective. But if that's the only downside I can think of, then you know this class is good. One of the best full martial kits in the entire game, and going the full 20 levels with this one is perfectly viable. Also in the A tier, surprisingly, is the Druid. Call them furries all you want, what they bring to the table with their animal transformations is too good to pass up. They can cast high-level magic, frontline, offer utility, and heal. Sometimes the amount of options you have at the table can be a bit overwhelming, along with the need to know all of the beast stat blocks that you can turn into, so for that, it probably loses some fun points for less experienced players. Still a great class that skilled players can't go wrong picking up. And lastly, in the pretty lit fam tier is Rogue. The class is brokenly strong in some situations and sorta average in others, hence the placement in this tier. Expertise is a great level 1 skill you can't go wrong picking up, and makes rogues awesome for multi-classing. Sneak attack also has so many different ways to activate that the only time you won't be able to use the feature is if you really messed up your positioning. Just like Barbarian, however, dexterity is a prime stat for the rogue, so unless you're going a dex-based build, chances are you'll be missing out on a lot of abilities that make this class so great. So in the broken category, we're starting with Bard. What's not good about Bards? They're good at literally everything, and amazing at everything they're already good at. Almost every charisma-based class uses that stat as a crutch, but Bard injects charisma into their veins like a steroid. If I were to list off every positive stat from this class, then this video would never end. Only one downside exists with this class, and it's that on occasion you're gonna need to stop hogging the spotlight and let the other players at the table roll some dice too. The amount of fun Bard is to play should be illegal. Second on this list is Artificer. I've never played the class, so I can't fanboy over how powerful and entertaining this one is to use, but making robots seems really cool, and the concept of a magical tinkerer is one that hasn't been explored up until now, which is strange to say the least. Crafting magical items can be so broken if done correctly, and can sometimes happen whether you are aware of it or not, so prepare to be one of the most inventive players at the table if you plan to go this class. Also, the robot companion you get can decimate the action economy for combats, so just by having an extra health sponge on your party, you can drastically alter the favor of any fight. Now, does Cleric even need to be explained? Anyone who's played this game for any amount of time knows that this class is broken. Popular culture dictates that clerics are meant to be heal bots, but D&D clerics can be a force of pure destruction in any fight. Whatever subclass you choose dictates what part of your broken kit gets even stronger. Life clerics get unrivaled heals, war clerics get unrivaled damage, etc. It's a sad truth that most campaigns don't run farther than level 10, but for any of you lucky enough to have a higher level cleric, Divine Intervention is the strongest class feature in D&D. For any of you forced to play a support role in any campaign, be glad that cleric exists. And finally, last but certainly not least, we have Wizard. Honestly, what's not to like about this class? Wizard has one of the most varied spell lists out of the entire game, the most unique and creative subclasses. It uses intelligence to cast magic, and comes with an unrivaled amount of utility through all of these traits combined. Regaining spell slots after a short rest assures that you're never entering a fight without magic prepared. It's a trait that Warlocks also have, but Wizards aren't forced to cast all their spells at max level, so just for that there's so much more flexibility. All OG D&D players know you can't go wrong with Wizard, and even if your party doesn't need one, the nerdy magic caster is just so much fun to have hanging out in any D&D group. Anyway, that'll about do it. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and a reminder that it was sponsored by the Deck of Many's Black Friday sales. By any chance, do you remember those animated D&D spell cards that came out a while back? Well, both them and the Humblewood campaign setting are all on sale for the rest of November. Not only that, but by using the code BS2020, BS. You'll get free shipping for your entire order. Better check it out now before you have to wait till next year. Use the link down below and tell him I sent you, and I'll see you all in the next video.